Okay, so this past Sunday at A Place to Talk on July the 12th, we talked about narrow and wide gates. And the thumbnail for that video, the questions, was kind of nasty looking to me. And so I wanted to just kind of give you a recap of how the conversation went after we had this nasty thumbnail. We looked at this passage that says, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction. And many enter through it, but small is the gate and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only few find it. And so we had that conversation, and we came to this question here. Let's look at this. Matthew 7, 13 through 14, Matthew 7, 13 through 14, make Christians doubt their salvation or examine it? Should it make them doubt or examine? And the answer for me is absolutely not either. Neither. This isn't about salvation. See, we've taken the Bible, we've taken all of Jesus's words, and I'm talking about American Christianity for the last 100 years or so, right? We've kind of taken, maybe more than that. Anyway, I don't want to get into thinking about dates and when all this crazy stuff happened. But something happened when this, maybe it was Dante's Inferno story anyway, Christianity got reduced, boiled down to just heaven and hell stuff. It was just, are you going to burn forever? Or are you going to walk on streets of gold? And that BS has screwed up understanding the truth about the faith that true Christians have it's just screwed everything up. So I don't think that this narrow, wide gate is about salvation as much as it's about life. It's just about life. The narrow doesn't just mean small. The word is the word we get stenosis from, the word we get stenos from. It's the word about narrow actually means compressed or constricted or cramped, under pressure. And that's the way life is best. If you live a life that has some pressure, you ever seen a kid that grew up with a trust fund? They grew up with no pressure in their life, and they turned into, sometimes it just really screwed them up. Now, there's people who grew up with trust funds and grew up with everything they ever wanted and turned out to be great people, humans. That, I think, though, is the exception rather than the rule. I think what Jesus is saying is it takes some constriction, some pressure in life for us to grow. I chose the road not taken, and it made all the difference. Who is that? I can't remember the author's name, but anyway, the story of two roads. The word destruction doesn't mean tossed into hell. It doesn't mean to stop existing. It means ruin, loss, destruction, devastation. And that's what happens when we live this life with no growth, no challenge. This few that find it doesn't say they stopped looking, or few started looking, or few hear about it. It means that few find it. And it's not talking about eternal life like living forever, like going to heaven. Sorry, I had something in mind. It's talking specifically about a word that you may or may not have heard. It's the word Zoe. We transliterate it Zoe. It's talking about Aeonis Zoe life, not just bios. Bios is that life that we're breathing, we're living, we're alive. You check somebody's pulse, you see if they're alive. That's bios. But this is talking about Zoe. It's talking about abundant life. It's talking about fulfilled life. It's talking about joy. And so this path that Jesus is talking about, this path that is constricting like a blood vessel, stenosis, this pressurized life that has, you go through some bumps, you go through some challenges. Sometimes people wonder, why am I going through this? Sometimes we go on a path and we go through some challenges and it makes us better. It helps us grow. It makes us more. And our life doesn't lead to destruction, but we keep searching and we keep searching until we find that path that leads to this Aeonis Zoe life, the life that means something. Jesus didn't say the narrow road leads to mere existence, bios. He said it leads to Zoe. That's the Greek word for God's kind of life, abundant life, eternal life, as it was meant to be lived. The wide road may promise freedom and pleasure, but Jesus says only the narrow road leads to Zoe, truly living. So the broad road, people who take the easy path, it often leads to ruin and complete destruction and loss. But the narrow road, that road that has some challenges and it has some pressure, it leads to fullness of life. So there's two choices. Okay, that's the way our conversation continued this past Sunday. And so I wanted to make sure that you understood. Now, I'm not going to do this every week because where we get to in our conversation, and to be honest with you, I don't always have my opinion about these conversations so tightly spelled out like I did here and like I did this past Sunday. But a lot of times, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have an idea and then it ends in a totally different path because I'm not the pastor, leader, teacher. I'm just another person in communication. And sometimes Norma says something that's insightful. Sometimes it's Art. Sometimes it's Candy. Sometimes it's Freimeyer. Sometimes it's Mark or Trisha. There's everybody just kind of communicates, and we wait to hear what God's saying to us through one another. So if you're looking for a place to hang out and you've been watching or you're curious, call me, text me. My number's easy to find. Reach out to A Place to Talk. Reach out to me, Josh, 828-238-2682. Call me anytime. I'm here to help.